Before we get started, here's just a little Dharma Drops public service announcement. In this episode with Miss Holistic, we talk a lot, well, maybe just a little about the man flu and how whiny men can get when they have those sniffles. And then the next day, I got crazy sick. And let's just say I was pretty whiny. So maybe the man flu exists, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I just learned from the best dudes. I don't know. But here's what I do know. Whether or not you had the man flu, the woman flu, the bird flu, it doesn't matter. If you are sick, please do not go to your yoga class or do not go to the gym. I do understand that sometimes when you work out and you have a cold, you do feel a little bit better. It is true that a little moderate exercise sometimes can help us feel better when we're under the weather. But while you're sweating in your yoga class trying to feel better, do you know what else is happening? You're getting everybody else sick. So with that in mind, as we approach cold and flu season, please, 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 if you're sick, do your yoga practice at home, do your workout at home, or better yet, just rest, get better, and we'll all be here for you when you're well again. Okay, guys, stay well. Enjoy the episode. This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. Okay, so you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Hey there, Dharma Drops listeners. This is your host, Rebecca Warfield, and I am here with my new friend, Simone Venner from Ms., not Miss, we just talked about this, Ms. Holistic. She's a registered holistic nutritionist and a yogi. What's going on, lady?
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here too, and we were able to figure out a time to record. So are you in London?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll be lying if I am. I'm 20 minutes out of London at my parents' house currently, but yeah. I am very, very close to London. But to a Londoner, I am not in London right now.
To an American listening right now, close enough. Closer to London than we are, right? So how are things happening in your neck of the woods, or as I usually say, across the pond in the motherland?
Across the pond, yeah, it's good. We're in summer, and London in summer is a beautiful thing, but being England in summer, it's a little bit temperamental, but can't complain too much. So it's enjoyable. People are out. It's not getting dark till 9 o'clock. It's a beautiful place to be. I don't really run away in the summer. I like to be home in the summer. I run away in the winter. That's when I leave.
I've been to, I was in London once, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. I was in London once, and there's a lot of very good beer, and it was a different time in my life, and I don't remember my time really.
Yeah, that can happen. That's definitely part of our culture. And it's, even, the Friday, for instance, in the city, loads of people can get off work. Most people work in 9 to 5 or somewhere around those hours, especially in the city. But you walk past any pub at 1:30 on a Friday in the summer and it's packed. The outside is just ram-packed, and you're looking and you're like, why are these people working? Like, it doesn't really make sense, but there's so many of them.
I feel like that. So I live at the beach in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's a tourist town, and the main industry here is service. And I'm not sure what's happening, but on any given Wednesday at like 1:30 or 2 p.m., there's traffic everywhere. I'm like, does no one work? I don't understand what's happening. How are so many people out right now and not working? So I kind of get it.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're like, why are these people working? They're enjoying themselves. But
and I'm also out too. So I guess I'm not working, right?
But I can still have an opinion.
There's lots of opinions on Dharma Drops podcast. So you're in good company right now. I also enjoyed the warm beer when I was traveling because, have you been to the United States? I know you said you studied in Canada, right?
Yeah, I have actually. About in 2012, my best friend and I did 3 months. We did 16 states in 90 days.
So wait, where did you go? I want to know where you went.
I mean, we kind of donutted around. So we flew in, to break it down, but not too much. We flew into Miami. We thought that we might hang out in Miami for a month or maybe 2 months. And then within about 3 days, we were like, nah, we're good.
Sorry, Miami. I'm the same way. I actually was just in South Florida and I was like, I think I got to get out of here. I'm sensitive and I'm friendly, and everyone in Miami was like honking their horns and like yelling at each other. And I was like, why can't we all just get along and be nice?
It was so funny. Literally, we have this quote, my best friend and I, because, we got there for New Year. So we're like, we're going to go out somewhere for New Year. But it's like $150. And I'm not paying $150. So obviously I end up paying $150. And about 2 days later, we meet this guy. And we were like, well, how much do we pay to get in? He's like, why pay when you're beautiful?
Oh my God.
Like, this whole thing for the whole rest of the trip. We're like, we're just going to use this as like our get out of jail free card. And funny enough, it didn't work. But at that particular moment, it did. So yeah, we went from like Miami, and then we decided just to get a car and just to drive. So we worked our way through south all the way down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras.
Oh, nice.
Over to LA and went down, we drove through to Vegas, and then we worked our way all the way up the coast, up to Seattle, flew into Chicago for St. Patrick's Day, then flew to DC, went up to New York, and then out. So it was, I was exhausted. I remember being like, we were younger kids for 7, 8 years ago or so. And we were just like, it was exhausting, but it was so fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. The United States is big. I've driven cross country twice. It's a long ass drive from one side to the next. Yeah.
And on the other side of the road, and, and you don't even know about like the road rules, right? You give some dude your credit card and he's like, here's the keys, off you go. So we didn't know about parking in San Francisco and having to wheels, because otherwise you get tickets. So we kept coming back and we've paid the meter, like what's going on? And we just kept getting tickets and we had no idea. So, we had hit and runs. Like it was a crazy, crazy time.
The Wild West out here, girl.
yeah. Fully adapted. And it's one of the best trips I've done. So
it's exciting. It's a big country. And actually I'm going to San Francisco next month, but it takes, from where I'm at, it takes just as long to fly to San Francisco as it does to get to London. It's a long flight. Yeah, it is. And it's so funny. So many Americans that didn't have passports, and for a British person, or actually a somewhat privileged British person, let's say that, I have my passport and I get to travel, right? But you'd meet people like, I don't have a passport. And for us, we're like, how can you not have a passport? And then after we start driving, we're like, I've got it. Like it's such a big space, when we think of our tiny island, which is England, and then we're a stone throw away from France, it's only those borders that make it a different country. But it was great. It was really, really good. And I learned a lot. And there's places that I still keep going back and forth to. So that's really cool. Traveling throughout Europe is really fun, especially for Americans, because it's so easy to get from country to country. Because I took the ferry from Dover to Dunkirk, years ago. And it's just like for us, where it takes, 6-7 hours to fly across the country. It's so nice to get on a ferry and boom, you're in France.
Yeah. And this is it, like you learn to appreciate even things like the healthcare system, right? Like there was a case if I don't know, an old lady falls down the stairs in the States, instead of asking, are they okay? You ask if you've got insurance. Like we are so privileged here. And, I remember going out at 18 and, drinking too much at 18, and you would have someone who's drunk 4 times as much as you. Like my life has obviously changed a lot now when I look at the profession I'm in. But I mean, a taxi wouldn't take them home because they're like, you're going to vomit in my car. I'm not going to take you home. We couldn't call their parents. We couldn't drive ourselves because we had too much. So we would call an ambulance. This is a very common thing to happen in the UK.
Are you serious?
You call an ambulance and then you're like, they're safe. Okay, off you go. And I remember the ambulance driver was like, this is what happens when you ladies drink too much or you're out. She's like, this is what can happen to you. So are you going to keep drinking or are you going to come with her? And we all kind of looked at each other. We were like, we're going to keep drinking. Like, she's safe now, bye. Like, it was, and, you know, I've learned so much, like, appreciating everywhere that I've come from, because, you know, anything happens. I traveled to India, I was sick, I came home, I went to the tropical hospital, didn't have to sign anything, just for being British, paying my taxes in my own country. Like, I'm really, really supported. So yeah, I learned a lot. I came home extremely grateful from my trip. Yeah, and still, like, you know, like, these are the debates that I have with people in the UK. It's like, oh, you know, our NHS system. And I was like, you don't know how good you've got it.
I have an elderly neighbor, and they're constantly calling the ambulance for her. And the other day I was actually thinking, like, God, this sucks because it's so expensive for an ambulance. And I have not had to be in an ambulance, knock on wood, you know, so I don't know what the bill is like firsthand, but I do know it's very expensive. So
yeah. For sure. And I was saying, like, I was like, you remember, like, in all the American movies, when someone's water breaks, they get in the car and they're like dodging traffic. I was like, that's because they need insurance. They need really good insurance. Here we're just like, we're just going to call the ambulance, have a cup of tea, we'll wait for them to pick up, you know, like it's we'll see how our economy goes in the next few years, but things could change.
So funny. So Simone, you are a yogi, yes? Awesome.
Yes. For many, you know, I'm in my early 30s now, and I was first introduced to yoga at 14 or 15.
Oh man, that's cool.
It was my next door neighbor. She was in her mid 60s, and she would wake up and do this very Jane Fonda-esque video, and she made me a copy. And I used to dance as a kid, so like moving my body came very naturally to me. But she made me a copy. I don't even know how you make a copy of a video, but she happened to have that type of machine. And yeah, I remember doing my first literally Jane Fonda style yoga class and falling asleep in Shavasana. And I remember, you know, rehearsing, dancing for maybe 6, 7, 8 hours and never having that kind of complete stillness of a particular practice or class. So that spoke volumes to me, and I kind of dipped in and out, you know, whenever I was somewhere and they did yoga, I would go, but there wasn't really studios or anything 15 years ago like there are now
everywhere, on every corner.
Yeah. So I mean, even I mean, I did try even locally, and they just weren't giving me what I needed. So I kind of dipped in and out. And then, yeah, I kind of made my journey to India about 5 years ago, and I was like, right, like I'm in the motherland, right, of yoga, and yeah, pretty much is in my everyday life. If it's not in my body, you know, then like if it's 48 hours out of my body, it just feels weird, really, really weird.
Yes, and things don't go right for me, because I was actually just talking about this the other day, but when you start teaching yoga, it gets harder to practice because you're spending so much time teaching, you know, and doing your thing. It gets harder to practice. But I've always noticed when I start to fall a little bit out of my practice, shit just doesn't go right. I can't tell you what it is, but like the way I see the world isn't as clear, you know, and I feel more frustrated and my sleep isn't right. Things just start to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, it's so true. And like, even when you teach, you become these little like wisdom bodies. And I don't know, like I was having a conversation with my flatmate, and I was like, I don't know what it is. Like half the time I feel like I can't explain what I'm trying to say. I go into my yoga class and I start spitting out all this wisdom, and then people come up and they're like, oh my God, I cried and I didn't know why. And then I leave the room and I become like a babbling mess once again. I don't know what it is, but it's, you know, you use each other's energy, and it's a very beautiful thing to be able to share and receive. Right?
It is. I teach on Friday nights, and it's kind of difficult because my boyfriend, he comes home at 12:15 on Fridays, and he's here and he's doing things, and I kind of don't want to leave, you know, and I'm like, I gotta go, and it's Friday and I'm tired, and there's always this moment where I'm like, I don't want to go, and then I get there and it's like amazing, and everyone starts to come in and I teach. I'm like, oh, I've never actually felt this alive before, you know? It's really amazing how that starts to happen.
It's so lovely. And I teach at just a tiny yoga studio about 20 minutes away from me. And then I'm kind of working more with nutrition clients or teaching in offices. And I thought, I could work at loads of places, but for me, it's all about a community. Mm-hmm. And I get that from this studio, I teach Wednesday evening. It's the only evening that I teach. And I finish off with yin. So I finish in about 9:15 at night. And, at 10 o'clock, I'm like, guys, I'm going to have to kick you out. It's like 45 minutes. And they're all there and they're sharing tea and they're not necessarily speaking about yoga. They're just speaking. And I love that. I've got 3 women that come into my class. I call them the witches of Eastwick. Behind their back, mainly behind their back. And they're all in their late 50s. And I have to split them up. I'm like, you could not put your mats next to each other because they keep talking. But it's so nice because they love engaging. But for the rest of the people that have come in, they just want to meditate 5-10 minutes before.
That's me in class sometimes. I'm really chatty and I go to my home studio and I see all these people and I'm really excited to see. And I'm really loud and I walk in, I'm like, hi, and everyone's like, I'm just trying to relax here. So I am that person.
It's so nice. But even people come in and like, you can't put your mats next to each other, ladies. Split it up. They're like, okay.
It's like being a parent.
I know. But it's so lovely, to be able to see that. And the studio that I'm at, it's only been going a year. Last January it opened, so a year and a half, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't even know how you manage to authentically, obviously, attract this beautiful community. But people come in and they're like, this is so nice. And I'm like, I know, I really know. Like, really, it's really, really special. And I love it very much.
That's awesome. So in addition to teaching yoga, you were also a registered holistic nutritionist. Can you talk a little bit about that work that you're doing? That's actually how I found you on Instagram. I creep on Instagram all the time looking for people doing cool work around the world. Good. I'm glad that you don't mind that I was like mildly stalking you on the internet. But I saw that you do work in holistic health and nutrition, and we can get to this later maybe, but in gut health too, which is kind of cool. So what are you doing right now in terms of working in holistic nutrition?
Yeah, and it's a great question too, because I mean, like I said, I studied in North America. I studied in Vancouver, BC. And so for there, it's a very kind of alternative hub, right? All of the West Coast, really, all the way, California, all the way up to Canada.
I lived in Oregon and Washington State, so I'm aware of that, sort of alternative vibe, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you come home to the UK, and maybe I should have planned it a little bit better, because I was like, I've got all this knowledge. I'm going to come home to England. I'm going to be working, and people are like, "Oh, that's amazing!" Like, yeah, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. I'm like, yeah, what is that? And then almost instantly, I'll kind of describe what I do. And then they say, oh my gosh, you need to meet Simone. She's a dietitian. I was like, I did not say that. I did not use that word. That's not just what we spent 10 minutes talking about. So, I suppose, the whole wellness field, even holistic, meaning whole body. So you're trying to look at you as a whole being. I'm working with pretty much everything from type 2 diabetes to depression. And I work predominantly with food. Food is my tool. It's a very powerful tool, with occasional supplementation depending on what's needed. And I'm very lucky to work. All my clients are online. So I have international clients. It works out very well. And I find in the beginning, I was a bit like, I don't know if I want to do online. Would I do online? But after a few months, it's like, people will book me in when they're off, they're in bed, they have like their coffee or their tea, and they're like, right, I'm ready, let's do this. So it kind of allows them to be a little bit more vulnerable because they're in their safe space, as opposed to meeting in coffee shops or even renting, like a clinic that can be quite formal, I suppose. So it kind of allows people to be more vulnerable and touch on different things. And, especially if we are talking about gut health, for instance, a lot of the time we focus on food, like what diet people are on, what they're eating, what are their habits. And although this is obviously a huge part of what I do. Sometimes it depends on people's lifestyles, people's traumas, like, for instance, stress can deplete the gut. We kind of know that it slows down digestion. And sometimes you'll meet people that have had a really quite tough childhood, that's been focused around eating or being shouted at when eating certain moods. So they feel tense every time they eat because they associate that kind of.
Want to feel better all around in your life without doing a ton of hard work? Then join me for the Joy of Gratitude 30 Days of Gratitude Journaling, November 1st through 30th, 2019. Finding the attitude of gratitude is easy no matter who you are or where you are in this fully self-paced online event. This event is designed to encourage easy gratitude practices that you'll be able to complete in a journal in 5 minutes or less every day, November 1st through 30th. And it's all delivered online. So you can be anywhere in the world. You can participate anywhere, anytime, or as much or as little as you want. As a participant, you will receive a 120-page super cute gratitude journal via mail. You'll receive it by November 1st, a full 30-day gratitude calendar, daily email reminders, 30 days of simple gratitude journal prompts and exercises that take 5 minutes or less, 3 bonus 3-minute gratitude meditations, and again, the option to participate from anywhere, anytime, or as much or as little as you'd like. You get all of this for $33, and that includes the journal and all of the daily offerings. To register, head over to dharmadropspodcast.com/offerings, and you'll see the option to register there. But don't wait. To ensure on-time delivery of the journals, registration will close by October 13th at 11:59 p.m. So again, go to dharmadropspodcast.com/offerings and register by October 13th at 11:59 p.m. I cannot wait to practice gratitude and journaling with you this November.
So even in their adult life, although they're not dealing with that anymore, they still get stressed every time they eat, slows down their digestion, and then they're having issues, although they could be eating very clean food.
Sure.
So it's kind of being able to have the time. If you go and see a doctor, 5-10 minutes if you're lucky. My first consultation, I speak to them for 90 minutes and I'm like,
that's amazing.
What's going on?
I definitely can identify with this a little bit, and I can talk about my dad because he doesn't listen to podcasts. I don't even think he knows what a podcast is. So, so all is fine. But I eat faster than almost anyone I've ever met in my life. And I attribute it to the fact that if I did not scarf down my food as a child, my dad would have eaten it. He was like, the type of parent that would just eat right off of your plate. Or if I had like a cookie or something, if I let it sit around for actually one time at Christmas, I left cookies out for Santa and my dad ate them. I shit you not. I swear this happened. So there's always this like drama wrapped around like, shit, I got to get all this food and eat as fast as I can or it's going to be gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that stays with you for years. Like I can't remember exactly where I was, but I was eating in a public place, or I didn't even know this person, but I saw them eat incredibly fast.
Oh my God, it's probably me when you were in America.
It was almost like, what just happened? It was like a pelican, right? It was just like eat food like in one go. And I just said to him, "You're from a very big family, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yep, I'm one of 12. I'm the youngest." I was like, I can see those things now. Mm-hmm. He's the youngest. He's been having food taken away from him his whole child life. Yep. The whole snooze and lose kind of thing, right? So he now is in this like must eat quick or it be taken away from me, and I make a joke of it, although it is trauma, but he's dealing with that, even if he's eating on his own. Like I was a stranger. I wasn't going to steal his food. Right. But he must have been, I don't know, late 20s. So maybe moved out of home 10 years ago. It just keeps going that, and then I meet them in their 50s and then they have to think long and hard, like, oh yeah, maybe it was 45 years ago and this was a problem. And so I think trauma plays a huge role. And it doesn't even have to be something big. Like you said, little things like that, like dad sold the cookies, like it will just be ingrained in you. And I think that's the kind of beauty of my practices. We can go a little bit deeper. And I think when you have those aha moments, because I speak to most people that come to me is because they've tried everything. That's the type of person. It's like, I've tried everything and nothing works. And I'm like, right, are you ready to try now? So we have to go a little bit deeper. Things do come up. So I'm not trained in mental health to go any deeper into these situations, but I have enough knowledge to be able to dig a little bit deeper and then recommend them possibly seeking help from another type of professional.
Yeah.
And then we go a little bit deeper from there. And luckily that's not happened too often. But it is a case of, wow, I didn't know these things were happening. I didn't realize, because, a lot of the time we just blame the food. We're like, it's the food. And a lot of the time it is. Like, I'm not saying, you don't have to change your diet. You can just change your thoughts and everything will be fine. But it's definitely part and part. And I think that the whole holistic field is taking all of those things into account. And even with yoga, lifestyle is being able to be kinder to ourselves. And when we are kinder to ourselves, we feel better. And when we feel better, we make better decisions, right? That will support us then to make us feel better. So I think it's like that whole kind of circle to bring us back. And my whole ethos really, whenever I speak to new clients, is happiness. I'm here for your happiness levels, regardless. So they're like, I want to lose weight and I want to do this. So I'm like, let's talk about happiness. Like, how can we make you a little bit happier? Well, we'll make you happier.
I think too, like you were saying about, we have these habits, like the guy that eats fast or me, it just reminds me a lot of the yoga practice, because we live in these bodies and we pick up habits along the way and they just stick. And we don't even know that we're there until we start doing the work to peel away the layers, to see what's happening. Like, I think about my own back injury, which I've talked about a lot on this podcast, which isn't really much of a big deal anymore. But basically I was just standing poorly and doing everything, with my low back constantly in extension, until of course one day I had a back injury, but I had no idea, And so once I started to learn more about my body and more about alignment, things come back into place again. And I think the way that we eat is the same way.
Yeah, definitely. And we see that in yoga class, like I was teaching last Tuesday and I was like, right, everyone feet together, you red pants, feet together. And it's like, it's so out of, like, we don't even know what's going on with our body externally, let alone internally.
Yes.
So and we're not really even taught to, like I had a new student in my class last week, and it was a fairly like power flow, right? So we were moving a lot, building up a lot of heat. But then in Shavasana, she kind of came and took me aside and was like, I really want to lay still, but I can't lay still. It's like my body still wants to move, and that's the whole kind of tuning into what's going on. And I said, you're just sitting, you're just kind of allowing whatever is going on to be. And a lot of the time we don't do that. That's like, we speak about it in yoga, how Shavasana can often be one of the hardest asanas. But you're just sat there, you're just feeling all of those feelings. And we're so used to blocking out those feelings, even with little kids, they fall over. We don't even allow them to feel. So it's okay if we feel pain or if we feel something positive, but we still need to connect to those feelings. And I see that even with food, I see it in yoga, I kind of see it in every area, even emotionally. We're kind of told to just push out the negative and kind of just cling on to the positive. And then we kind of set ourselves up for disappointment half the time. So it's really hard to find that balance. And I think often when I speak about these type of conversations with people who are interested in food, they're like, wow, like you've gone on this whole different journey. I'm like, that's it. It's not just food. It's not just going to yoga every day and then I'll be really happy. Like, it's so much deeper than all of those things.
Right.
But I think the power of communication is key to be able to find out what's working out for each other and then share that. And then those whole community vibes and allowing us to grow together. So, yeah.
Well, I teach yoga at UNC Wilmington for college students. It's a 2-credit class that they get to take for graduation. And I'm always really interested in how little awareness they have of where their bodies are in space. And this isn't something I've fully identify with because I also grew up as a dancer. So I've been putting my body in shapes and taking direction like that for a long time. But sometimes I'm like, God, I don't fully understand where the disconnect is, but what's really interesting is how open they are to it. Once they start to realize like, oh, actually, I had no idea I was doing this, then they want to know more, which really speaks a lot to the practice and just to the whole effort of tuning in to what's happening in the body.
Yeah.
If an 18-year-old is like, oh, I think I'm learning a lot here, it's really powerful work.
Yeah, that's so nice. And then, so remind me, college age in America is?
Still start around 17 or 18 years old.
Oh, okay, so it's the same as here. And then they're in college for 2 years and then they go to university?
No, so university and college are like the same. They're synonymous here. So they'll go graduate from high school and then they'll go right into college, which would also be called university. It's 4 years and then they're done.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
You know, I was traveling in Belgium one time and I was talking to some man and I kept saying that I was in college and he kept looking at me really strangely. And then finally, like when we parted ways, he was like, good luck in college still. What did that mean? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, right on track here. And finally I realized that like in his lexicon, I was like some, person who had just been stuck in college for the last like 8 years or something.
Yeah. What's that film? Isn't it like there's a film, what's this called? When he keeps going back to college. Wait, I'll have to delete this now. I can't remember it.
That's okay. I never remember anything on here. I'm constantly saying things like, what's that book? The one where the girl and there's a conflict.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's gone. It's gone from me.
It's okay. So do you combine your work then? Do you teach classes that are like yoga classes that are combined with holistic nutrition or vice versa? Do your two worlds merge?
So interestingly enough, I have my first workshop next month that's finally combining them. Up until now, I haven't. Like I teach at festivals and I'll do like yoga class and then I'll do like a nutrition class, but I've never had the whole combined workshop, and I'm doing my combined workshop next month called Gut Feelings.
That's a good name, Gut Feelings.
Yeah, I know, like gut feelings, that's what I want. So we're talking about gut health, microbiome, brain and gut relationship, and a lot like IBS, IBD, Crohn's, all the kind of gut health issues, but also for anyone who has a gut, really, it's really relevant for them. But there was a study out, I can't remember but it's fairly recent, on comparing yoga practice to the FODMAP diet. I don't know if the FODMAP diet is fairly big in the US, but it's a diet that was founded in Australia, and doctors here now recommend it to patients who are dealing with IBS, IBD, irritable bowel.
Yeah, I actually I had my doctor, okay, she's not a doctor, she's a nurse practitioner, but she's actually like, she does holistic work and she's a nurse practitioner. And so she'll do both at the same time. It's really cool. But she actually recommended the FODMAP diet to me years ago. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, take it with a pinch of salt. I don't overly recommend it in my practice.
I didn't do it. I did. I was like, I have to have something to eat. This is boring shit.
Yeah, I mean, the principles kind of sound great, and I suppose for the viewers who don't know too much about it, I'm going to tell you about it, even though I don't recommend it, but here we are. The main kind of principle is to remove certain foods containing certain sugars that are known to ferment in the gut. Okay. And the point is you remove them, and then you notice that you're not dealing with the bloatedness. You're kind of removing that from the diet. And then over a period of time, you slowly start to reintroduce those foods back into the diet. But for me, I'm a little bit like, it's almost taking your clothes out of your house and then putting them back in. Like if you're not changing anything in your house, like it's still the same. Yes, you're going to be removing, the triggers, but unless you're going to decorate your house, it's still going to be exactly the same. So for me, we need to do a lot more work on the gut, because that's why it's depleted in the first place. But the principles like make sense, like especially if you are dealing with bloatedness from certain foods, then remove them for a certain period of time. But then we want to go in and heal the gut, because these foods, they are extremely nutrient rich foods. Like, we're not talking about, they're not telling you, take out all these processed foods, these refined foods. They're like, take out lentils, take out garlic, take out onion, like take out a lot of these, nutrient dense foods, which can be extremely beneficial for the body, and the gut thrives off these foods. And so recently there's been a study where they compared practicing yoga to the FODMAP diet.
Oh, interesting.
In terms of, exactly. So for me, like, this is like, I geek out on this. It's like my perfect Friday night in.
That's a sign of age when your Friday night is like, oh, yoga and FODMAP diet.
Studies. I love it. And basically I can't even remember the numbers or anything else. It wasn't overly a massive study, but IBS sufferers was kind of finding out that the yoga was offering more benefits than the FODMAP diet. And I was like, yes, this is amazing. Not that you shouldn't change your diet if there's something going on, but it just proves that, we already know as yogis how beneficial yoga can be. We don't really need to read a science, kind of results. We don't need that. We already know how it makes us feel. But if you're dealing with something like IBS, where you're in chronic pain, and I had it for many years, IBS, I'll just touch on that a little bit later, I suppose, if you want to, and to be able to go to a yoga class and know that you're supporting your body and your gut is a really powerful thing. So I thought, right, let's throw this together in a workshop. We can do loads of twists that focus on the gut and support the gut. Then we can break it down, speak about what actually is going on in the body, and then do questions and answers and kind of dig deeper for all those questions that people have, because it's very tough, like, looking into your own research. I mean, you can go on Dr. Google and be like, are oranges good for me? And it will say, yes, very, very good for you. Then you'll say, are oranges bad for me? You say, yes, very, very bad for you.
Yes,
so it's so tough, and that's probably the biggest thing that I get from my clients. Are like, I want to lose weight, but I know avocados are good, but they're high in calories, and I'm trying to lower my calories. It is complicated,
right?
And confusing and frustrating, and so it's just, for me, it's just about making things palatable, breaking things down, and allowing them to take away the information and them kind of take it or leave it or do as they please with it. So I'm just kind of
explain why yoga is just as good for gut health.
I have to look into it a bit more. No, it was more on the symptoms. It was more just telling you about the reduction of symptoms. But even then, whenever you look at a study, were the rest of the group doing FODMAPs for a very long time? Were some people's symptoms worse than others? Like, it's very, very tough. But for me, I just took what I wanted, and I was like, yes, yoga is good, positive, great. So that's what I took from it.
Well, and also too, I just recorded a podcast yesterday with my friend Angela. She's a nurse, and she was talking about, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and that yoga gets us in that rest and digest stage where we can actually start to literally, and I caution using language like yoga can heal this, just because I'm not a doctor, right? I don't know what can and cannot heal. But when we are in rest and digest, we are able to slow things down so the body can do its job.
Yeah. And that's it. I actually did a video on that recently, on like how to find credible health sources on the internet. I was like, things that I look out for: cure, heal, all these words. I'm like, avoid. But we can definitely say things like yoga may contribute towards, right? Because we know that there's truth there, and it's very, very true, like rest and digest. And I always kind of give the story of, like the lion, the lion's running around searching for its prey. It has its catch, it eats, it feeds the tribe, and then it sleeps, right? It's like, that's kind of, they're on their fight or flight, it's all go. And then they rest and literally digest, because we need to be in that rested state like I spoke about earlier, when the body's stressed, it really can't digest. Like a very common kind of symptom of this is if you've eaten too soon before going for a run. You know,
It's the worst feeling,
right? It's just like the food. The body is just like, get rid. I'm in a stress mode right now. I need to do this. I cannot digest your food. It's literally like, no, get rid of it. And it will come out either way, right? You either have splits and it's like, get out, or you'll start vomiting. So yeah, we're in such a fight or flight state constantly. You know, we wake up in the morning, and if we turn our phone on and we're having some kind of Twitter war with someone, then we're going to be like panicking, right? Like fight or flight. And then you go to work and your train's delayed and you're running late, it's fight or flight. And then you're behind because you've got into work. That's fight or flight. Like, it's constantly on, right? Like the lion's running, sleeping, running, sleeping. And then, you know, the body releases cortisol when it's stressed. You know, and this can lead to all, you know, if we keep having these high releases of cortisol, then it sets us up for things like weight gain, increases our blood pressure. It can even set us up for a higher risk of things like type 2 diabetes. So it's really quite crucial when we talk about these stress levels and being able to control them as much as we can. And sometimes, you know, we might just have a really stressful life and we can't really change our life, but maybe we can change different things around what we're doing. So
right,
maybe
and how we respond to things. I just took a class the other day online on Yoga Glow, and what I really liked, I think it was the Amy Carpenter class, she had mentioned that yoga teaches us how to deal with stress, right? We introduce these stressful things like handstands and headstands and arm balances and, you know, holding postures for a long time that create stress, but then it teaches us how can we come back to some sense of stasis middle of that stress, because life is going to be stressful. There's no getting around that.
Yeah. And this is it. And it's finding out little things like if you get triggered by social media, maybe turn off your data till you get to work, right? Like little things like that, which are free. And it's little ways that we can be more mindful. You know, can you wake up 15 minutes earlier and maybe do a 3-minute meditation and have a cup of tea before anyone else wakes up, right, in the house? So it's like all little things that we might not be able to change our lives, but the life that we do have to ourselves, we can take a little bit more control over. And our health will benefit, our mind, our happiness levels, like all of those kind of key focuses can really benefit from things like that, little changes.
Do you mostly work with women, or do you have a lot of men that come to your practice too? Because I had another, one of my friends, Rai, she was on here and she talked a lot about nutrition and the way that we eat, but she finds that mostly women come to her, that they're more willing to explore this stuff. Are you finding that to be true?
Yeah, it's so true. Like, I want more men, but even clients wise, I can count them on both hands with men. I'm getting a few more men now in terms of gut health issues, but it's a tough one, you know, because in terms of like IBS, for instance, studies show that more women are prone to things like IBS.
One time I went to the doctor because I was having a lot of digestive issues, right? And I got there as a gastroenterologist. He's a specialist, you know, which costs much more money to go to. So I'm expecting much better answers. And he was like, well, I mean, you're a woman, so you're just most likely to have it. And that was it. He left the fucking room. And that was the end of the conversation. And I was like, that's it?
I want a second opinion, please. Second opinion.
No, I didn't even get a second opinion. You know what I did? I just started doing yoga all the time. And I really think it boils down to what you were saying. It's this like rest and digest, you know. I actually started eating more meat, which for most people, maybe it's the opposite, but I was vegetarian, you know, and I started eating more meat and things worked themselves out and I'm fine. You know, I don't know if everyone else, it's going to be that easy, but his answer was, well, you're a woman. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
I would have had high blood pressure after that. Like that trigger and a half. I would be hyperventilating.
Yeah, I was pissed.
But I mean, look, this is the stats. However, most women talk about their feelings. So they're
Right.
more likely to go to the doctors in the first place.
Right.
I do not believe that men are not suffering with this, but they think it is normal to just fart all the time. Like, even we'll say like, oh, it's a very male thing to do, blah, 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 blah. It's not a very male thing to do. We both have bowels. We both have gut microbiome. We both have bacteria. Like, this is a fact. But I will work with male clients I'll do like a spectrum, like in terms of 1 to 10, how bloated are you on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, about 2, and then 6 weeks in, they're like, oh, I realize I'm bloated every day. It's just like the awareness, once again,
right.
About the awareness is not there. So for a male doctor to say that would make me extremely mad. But on those stats, it looks like that because we communicate, and then we moan about how like men have like man flu because nothing, they don't complain about anything. And then there's a bit of sniffles. They're like, oh my God, like, I'm dying.
See, it's not cultural. The whole world's talking about man flu.
It's true. And in my practice, I like to think I can support a lot of things, but haven't really found the perfect diet for man flu. So I'll keep working on that one.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I do think that, and just like a yoga class, they're full of women, because I think women are at this time in history, women are more willing to explore these things, and to peel away the layers and to do the work. Not that men aren't willing to do the work. I just think that one thing that I think is happening is the way we talk about yoga and the way we talk about health is very feminine, which is cool. I mean, I'm a woman. I speak in the feminine language. I get it. But I think sometimes it makes men feel like, oh God, I don't want to do that. It's like too woo-woo. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of...
True. And you have to learn to speak their language too. Like I'll go into offices and do a few talks on nutrition, and a lot of the men aren't so interested.
Yeah.
But when I'm like, all right, we're going to talk about libido and erectile dysfunction, and then all of a sudden all these men are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to that. And then funny, loads of women are there too. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna be here. I need to find some tips. So it's really tuning into their language.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, like we know the traditional yoga, I was in India and I would ask everyone, like, who was the first yogi? And they're like, Shiva's the first yogi. The first yogi known is Shiva. Who is a very high-powered man, right? And a lot of these yoga practices, even that I teach hot once a week, kind of Bikram style, and a lot of these asanas are very male-orientated.
Yes.
Like boobs are in the way for women, a lot of upper body weight, like even like Ashtanga, like it's very male-orientated.
For men.
Yeah. And then we've taken it to the West, and now that's kind of been blown off, and now it's like very feminine again. So it's very, very bizarre. And I'll still weekly, if someone randomly says, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I work in nutrition, I teach yoga. Oh yeah, yoga. Yeah, it's not strong enough for me. Like the average man. I'm like, okay, just give it once. Just come once.
Just one time. Actually, the students I was talking about that come to my class at the university, most of them will tell me the very first day I signed up because I thought yoga would be easy. And then the next thing I know, they are on the struggle bus, but they love it too, because they find like, oh, it's a balance of effort. It's a balance of ease, and my boyfriend, he will tell people all the time, he'll like tell his coworkers and stuff, like, you should try yoga. And they're all like, nah, dude. He's like, no, you should try it. Cause he'll come to yoga with me sometimes. He's like, you'll work.
Yeah, I know. And it's, I think also, we know that there's going to be times in yoga, whether you've tried or not, that you will sit and feel. And I think that, to be honest, is the most daunting thing to people when they come. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to sit, I'm going to feel, I'm going to be left with my worries. And that is a practice in itself. And for me, that there's something very kind of masculine about those kind of things, being able to sit, being able to feel and deal with something.
Right.
And it's like, it's still kind of looked as feminine, not to say feminine as negative, but, we look at feminine as kind of strong, but light and emotional and connection. Even like the left and right side of the body, right? We talk about the female side and the male side. But so I wonder sometimes if that puts many men off too, because you know, we've all been to the gym where you've seen like loads of men around the weights and they're grunting together and they're this together. And it's, for me, that's very, very strange. Like, I'm not used to that. I have more men in my yin than any other class.
Oh, interesting.
Which is even more interesting. Yeah.
I do think it's interesting what you said, though, because whether you like it or not, you're going to feel something in yoga. There's going to be a moment of stillness where something arrives. And often we talk about that in terms of the feminine, like to have feelings. But I think, and I don't want to say like to have feelings is wrong or that women should ignore them. It's not that, but to recognize your feelings and then to be able to move past that. That's where I think that men sometimes excel in terms of just all around wellness. I can get stuck in my bullshit so fast. I can get stuck in my anxiety. I can get stuck in my anger, and I can hound on it for like weeks, months, years. And most men that I know, maybe they're compartmentalizing, but I don't know, like my boyfriend is really good at just letting go. You know, it's like, hey, I felt this and now I need to like let go, you know, and I don't think, at least for me, speaking as a woman, I'm not as good at that.
Yeah. And I think also as men kind of stereotyping, they're taught that, right?
Right.
Man up.
Right.
Boys don't cry. Wah, wah, wah. All these sayings, whereas women were allowed to feel,
right.
You know, like my brother would always, I used to cry a lot as a child. I say cry a lot as a child. It makes it sound like I was always crying, but you know, if I would get shouted at or something, I would instantly kind of cry, right? It's a very normal thing to see in a female, you know, especially a young female. I was 7 or 8 or whatever it was. But my brother still now, he's 6 years older than me, would say, you know, like, well, you was always really quite sensitive. And it's funny because we see sensitivity once again as a weakness,
right?
But also as crying, you know, or feeling, where when I think of other things that doesn't affect me, but I see it affecting other people, I'm like, different type of sensitivity. Like, this doesn't bother me at all. I'm quite cool here. But for this person, they're like, I can't, you know, if they're angry. But even when you're angry, it's still a sensitivity. You're sensitive to that. But because they always see themselves as angry and they don't cry, they don't think they're sensitive.
Right.
But it's like you're angry at everything because you're sensitive to everything. So I think it's very interesting to even look at sensitivity, because we do kind of think like yoga, you know, for many men, like, it's a very sensitive thing, you go into about feelings, but the fact that you're even having that opinion makes you quite sensitive, but in a different way.
It's really interesting. But I think if everyone just sat down and did the work, we'd all find that balance. You know, like for people like me who can get stuck in it, I learned how to bring it back. For people like, say, my boyfriend I don't want to use him as an example. He was raised by karma yogis. Like, he's a different type of being, you know. I know his mom moved out of North Carolina and lived out of a VW van in Europe in the 60s. And
amazing.
Just like traveling around, probably smoking a lot of weed, you know, just doing the 1969 stuff. And then they followed Ram Dass, you know, the whole 9 yards. But in any case, maybe he's not the best example. So if women could like feel their feelings in yoga class and bring it back to stasis, and if men could have the feelings in yoga class, then we're just all finding that sense of balance.
Yeah, definitely. And it is. And I think, you know, like I mentioned, even sitting and feeling is a powerful practice in itself. You know, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, sitting with it and being like, this really hurts, or this is amazing. Like either way. Like I was speaking to a friend, she's just gone through a breakup, and you know, when you speak to people in the early days, like, it is quite intense. So even for me, I don't want to, not in a negative way, but it is intense. Like they keep reliving these moments over and over and over. And, you know, if I was doing this and if I was doing that, and I was like, it's okay for you to say that you feel like shit right now.
Yes.
I said, it's okay to say that. You know, it's like, no, you know, I'm going to get over this and this and this. It's like, it's fine to feel whatever you feel, as long as you're allowing yourself to feel them. You know, as long as you're crying when you're sad and you're laughing when you're happy. As soon as you get those things mixed up, that's when it gets troublesome. And you're like, I don't know how to express, you know?
we want to patch things for people like, oh, it's okay. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Everything's going to be okay. And I have a friend, Kelly, when we were in college together, she hurt her knee very badly. And long story short, three knee surgeries later, she will never be the same. And people used to say to her like, oh, it'll get better. You'll be able to run again. You know, you're tough. And she used to get so mad. And I really took that to heart because she just really wanted someone to acknowledge that like, she was unhappy. She's in her early 30s. You know, she's going to have her knee replaced at some point, you know, when she gets.
Yeah.
And I've always took that to heart. And so later in life, when people were going through problems like divorces, breakups, whatever, I always say to them, this is going to suck. And they always say, thank you. Everyone says, thank you for acknowledging that because they just want to feel that their feelings are validated, even just for a second. Like it is going to suck. It will get better, but it's going to be a shit show for a while.
Yeah. And I think, and that's the power of feeling and moving through, right? Because otherwise you're just like, you don't even get to feel. It's like, yeah, let's just move through. It'll be fine. It would be this, it would be that. And similar to me, I mean, my father is disabled. He got diagnosed with ALS about 12 years ago. And, you know, it was an intense time. And I kind of connected to what you say because I would have so many of my friends that, you know, we were given 1 to 3 years and we're on like year 12 or 13 now. So I'm extremely grateful. And, you know, I'd speak to friends and they meant the best, but they were like, oh, you know, how's he doing? Is he getting better? Or I was like, oh, right. Like how do I deal with this? And luckily because I had my practice, you know, my kind of, I could go back to that and allow myself to feel it, to be like, this is shit. It won't necessarily be perfect, but let's kind of take it day by day and see what I'm dealing with. And, you know, you go through so many ups and downs of those things. And you know that it's in the best intention. Like people are saying it because they're kind and they care. But it's like, we just want to say it's really shit and I feel really bad and I feel awful and I just want to cry and know that I can cry, you know, like it's and in anything like that, you know, even if something minor has happened, it's okay to say that it feels pretty crappy right now, but you know, nothing lasts forever kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think people want you to feel better so they can feel better. And I understand that feeling. I had someone text me recently with a lot of drama and I'm always there to be supportive. But then I was like, this is a lot of drama in my life. You know what I mean? Like, can I handle this? And I get that they care, but they also say these things because they also want to feel better too, because now you're bringing your heaviness and no one means anything by it. But maybe if there's one big takeaway from this episode, if your friends text you with drama, just tell them, it's gonna be a shit show, and I love you.
Yeah, and I love you. And I can't handle it right now, but text me tomorrow.
It's gonna be a shit show, and now I can't be your friend anymore. No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. It'd be terrible.
And I think it is true too, is to find out where you are, and it's okay to be selfish sometimes. You know, sometimes I have to. You know, people come to me all the time. Like that's the field that I'm in. I'm working in nutrition where people are vulnerable. You're in yoga. You're giving your energy to them. So sometimes when, you know, someone's like, oh my gosh, this and this has happened, I'm not going to reply straight away. And I'm going to kind of sit with it and be like, right, what can I do to help this person? They know I'm there. But how is this going to help me? So, you know, sometimes you need to be selfish in those situations. Obviously, you know, when someone really needs you or if they're just kind of, like you said, you know, you use the word dramas and stuff. But I think sometimes we feel so guilty with being kind to ourselves. I know I definitely have before, you know, you're like, oh, I just need to give everything to everyone. And then you get home and you're like haggard, you're like all rolled up and shoulders and you're twitching. And it's like, oh, wow, I really needed to, you know, like when you're on an airplane and they're like, make sure you put on your own mask first. Your own mask before someone else. Like, there's so much truth in it. I like quote it all the time because it's so true. And you know, when you've kind of helped yourself out, then you're a better friend. You can actually be a better friend when you've been a little bit more selfish. So,
yeah. And I think that kind of goes back just to the earlier conversation too, like taking good care of yourself, learning your habits, getting your own body healthy. Because really, if the yoga practice is designed for us to be able to serve others, if we're not feeling good in our bodies, if we're not feeling good in our lives, we have nothing to give.
yeah, yeah. And this is so true. Like I see it in London yoga teachers, the whole kind of cliche. They're really stressed at work. They work busy lives. Then they find yoga and they quit and become a yoga teacher. Like this is like, I'm surprised it's not like a movie that's done this by now, like Save the Last Dance style. I think it would be massive. You could have everyone in Lululemon, it would make a fucking fortune. I see it so often, but I'm also now seeing burnout in the yoga industry.
I know all about this.
So many hours, they're all over the shop, and they're like, yeah, got to make that money. I was like, when do you practice? Don't have time to practice. I'm teaching. And it's like, wow, you're doing exactly what you were doing 3 years ago in the office.
Because it's the habit hasn't changed. And I know a lot about this because I was full-time at the university and now I'm part-time, and I left not just to teach yoga, but there's like the whole political thing of academia that just drove me up a wall. And it was also like during an economic time in the United States, it wasn't amazing, and stuff like that. So I wasn't making a lot of money, but my habits didn't change. So I would work just as hard teaching yoga. Not that I shouldn't be working hard, but my stress level was still the same, maybe for a while, even worse. While I'm trying to figure out running all over the place, teaching 10,000 classes. You just can't serve anyone like that.
And they're taking like solar plexus. They're like stripping you bare, like your students unintentionally too, right? They're like, give me all your energy. Like I see it. I see it sometimes in class, and even just like put my hands on my heart, on my belly, and I'm like, oh, I can't allow them to take everything. But yeah, I'm seeing it a lot right now.
But I think that's also a symptom of the world that we live into, when professionals like the people you're talking about in London, even people like me, when something has to change. We might not know how to change it, but the lifestyle of the corporate world, of the academic world, whatever it is, cannot sustain. It just can't. Even though maybe for a while it's like trying to figure out my yoga career and how to make all this stuff work and try to make ends meet, even though I was really stressed and in some ways more stressed, I could not sustain the level of unhappiness that I had, in my other career. So I think that shift for people that are happy, like leaving their corporate jobs into yoga, it's a symptom that the way we live our lives just has to change.
Yeah, for sure. It really, really does. And we're working so many hours now, like the human body can't really keep up with what we're doing. We really can't. I go into offices and I kind of had this shift where I used to be like, oh, maybe you'll benefit from meditation if that will work, or maybe we can do a yoga class. And now I go in and I'm like, stress will kill you. It's like my first line. And then they're like, oh, what else is she going to say? I was like, stress causes inflammation. Inflammation is the fundamental of disease. I was like, this is what we're up against. And I'm like, not necessarily, is this going to help you? Is like, you need this. You need to implement meditation into your offices if you care about your employees, if you care about their happiness levels. When they're happier, they're going to work harder. They're going to bring you in more money. That's the fact. And,
it is a fact.
And the difference, the shift, right? Like, they're like, okay, do it. Sign her up.
If people don't feel happy, if they don't feel connected at work, if they're just these little robots doing things all day, they cannot produce as much good work. And it's not even about like, can they produce more work? It's, can you even get quality work out of them? I'm always really stunned at how corporations work, because they want more productivity, more this, but then they do all the things that actually prevent that from happening.
Yeah. And they don't even see it's like robots. It's like, what, you can do this, right? You can do that. Did you not get my email at midnight last night? Like, why haven't you responded? And it's just not, it's just not sustainable.
It's not.
That's it. And like all my practice, how I work in nutrition, everything is sustainability. It's like, how can we support longevity? Like, I'm not talking about, oh, you lose weight, I'm happy for the time being. I'm talking about how can you be happy for the rest of your life from these changes? And I mean, we're working.
Sorry about that. It's so easy to interrupt when we record virtually because there's a little delay, you know.
I know.
I had just had Annie Carpenter on my podcast recently because she was teaching a workshop in Wilmington, and she mentioned very much more articulately than I was speaking about the concept of the sustaining presence. Can you be in, she was talking about in the yoga practice, but of course, when we talk about yoga, we're talking about life too. Can you be present, and can you have effort, but can you sustain that effort? Because if it's 100%, you will not be able to sustain it. You just can't. So everything you do has to be a balance of, between effort and ease. And the yoga teaching, Sthira and Sukham, has to be a constant balance of effort and ease.
Definitely. And we allow so much room for mistakes now. Like, even emails will say, written on my iPhone, there might be typos, right?
Apologies.
Like I'm on the subway, I'm on the tube, I'm on the underground or whatever. Like, it's a constant excuse. Because the lack of quality, and the quantity and it's intense. But I do go into these offices and speak, and, if you're working 9 to 5, you're doing what, 38 to 45 hours minimum a week. Like, a lot of the time your work sees you more than your lover and your family do.
Yes, that is not the way to live life.
Yeah. And this is it. And it's, if there is a choice to make your life a little bit happier, like finding out those offices that support you. Like, I'm in banks right now, and banks they still haven't implemented wellness plans, where the big companies like Google, Amazon, YouTube, they're a younger crowd. Like, a lot of people be like, what, you're not doing yoga? I'm not coming to work for you, right? The millennials, like, we're up on that. But for a lot of these large corporations, it's like, we don't even go half an hour early. Like, they don't really give you anything. Right. There's no wellness. Maybe they bring in croissants once a month or something,
And everyone has a gluten intolerance, so that's not going to work.
Exactly. Or on a diet, or one of the above. So it's just not sustainable. And for these companies, I remember, family, friends as a kid, all my mum and dad's friends had been in the same company for 35 years. But now it's like, oh yeah, I worked for them for 4 years. They went bust, or they weren't looking after my mental health, so I left them. Like, and people don't even want people to work for them for a long time. Like, it's all very, very strange and very quick fix, really. Yeah. It's like a quick replacement. We can just get young ones in and work them really hard and pay them shit money, and then they move on and go to a better company, and then we just get new ones in. So it is tough. And the mental health in the workplace, I'm very lucky that the offices I go into, they will allow them to take that time. It's not in lunch, it's not before work. They'll do a 20-minute meditation in work time, which is really good, really, really nice. And, I get them to kind of do a happiness kind of survey where, in 3 months down the line, I was like, you said you were at a 4, and now you said that you're at a 7 when you're at work. And they're like, oh, I didn't even realize that, and I'm like, that's huge. That's huge. It's like, you hated your boss, you hated your line manager, and now you're having a cup of tea with them. And so there's so much that can be improved in 20 minutes. It's really amazing. And the word is spreading. It's not moving quick enough, but it is spreading.
There's definitely a shift or a movement, I think, that's happening, which also too, I know we talked about before we started recording, we were talking about the calorie tax, but I do think that, which is in the UK, because as I said, that's very un-American. That will not happen here. Americans do not pay taxes on calories. It's like never going to happen. But I do think that there are, like you said, big industries, even some governments. I joke about America, but there's even like this stuff, about like the extra large sodas and stuff like that in New York, which was like
Yeah.
a cultural meltdown. But I do think that governments and school systems and large companies that have influence, they're starting to listen. Whether or not they take all the right actions, they're kind of starting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough. Like, I mean, I remember I had a conversation with a woman from Monsanto when I went to is it the Health Expo or the Natural Food Expo in LA? It's like one of the biggest ones in the
I don't
States.
know.
A few years ago, and I remember seeing her badge. It said Monsanto, and I was like, "You're brave wearing that badge."
Yeah,
we're like at the
time.
biggest health natural food expo, and I was like, "Right, let's chat." And I was like, "No disrespect, I've seen your badge. I'm already making a judgment." And she was trying to say that basically they were looking after a organic olive farm that was doing olive oils, right? I don't overly promote oils with my nutrition side, but anyway, this is like looking at organic products. And she was like, yeah, but we've got the funding from Monsanto and they're really trying to do a good thing here. And I was like, oh, it's very tough, isn't it? It's like, and maybe the olive oil just says, cold pressed organic olive oil. So none the wiser that is part of Monsanto.
Mm-hmm.
But, the fact that it's even organic is just like an oxymoron. I don't know like how I feel about the whole thing, but, she was trying to, and I allowed her to, like we was just networking and she was like, but it's a really good product and this, and I mean, I don't know if doing some good when you're bad balances you out. Like, I mean, I really don't know. But yeah, these corporations have a lot of money. I mean, I've got a nutrition friend who was doing a talk at the head office at Coca-Cola here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I wouldn't go do a talk for them. Like, I got already defensive. I was like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what are they going to be doing? Drinking Coke while listening to your nutrition chat? But you have to take the money when it comes in. But I'm a little bit like, do you have to? Am I at that place where I can pick and choose who I want to work with and who I want to at least associate my brand with? Right? So and I mean, you were going in to give them health advice. Yet I know, because my background's in marketing, I know that Coke, who own Fanta and all the other products that they own, when they hit the streets to sample, they target 15 to 17-year-olds.
Right.
Like I was like, I don't know. I know too much of what they're pushing. So they try and do the positive, but I don't know. It's like two wrongs making one right. I don't know. But
it's a tricky world that we live in, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then the funding too, right? Like they could put so much money towards, I mean, the Olympics is sponsored by Coca-Cola and McDonald's and
Which is the weirdest thing to watch, like Michael Phelps or Phillips or whatever his name, Michael Phelps, like eating his Big Macs and stuff. I'm like, why can't I eat shit all the time and be a superstar? Because I eat one Big Mac and I'm like 25 pounds heavier. I don't
even looking at, you know what I mean? Even looking at a Big Mac can have that impact on many people. So, I mean, I don't know. And it's just so confusing. And like I said, with going to Dr. Google and asking questions, the public are confused. And the government, in my opinion, need to take a certain amount of responsibility because, back in the day, people would say if someone's overweight, well, they're just eating too much food. They just need to exercise more. And to a certain extent, maybe there's some truth there. Mm-hmm. Maybe genetics plays a role. However, the government can't allow certain ingredients to go in foods that are on the shelf in supermarkets and then blame the consumer for buying them and eating them.
And you guys, where you're at is better than here. You have a lot
Yeah.
more restrictions in the United States. It's really freaky what is in food. I think across the world, things are a little crazy, but the United States, there is like, it's a free for all practically.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I mean. Like studying North America, I think that kind of gave me my first insight into that and looking into ingredients and what people can get away with. And like I was listening to this podcast the other day and they were highlighting like brown bread, for instance. Like white bread is had the bran removed, so it no longer has any fiber. So people think, you know, if we buy brown bread, then it's just naturally going to be healthier for us. And in kind of like, that makes sense, right? We know that we've got fiber in brown bread. But this woman was highlighting that, this woman, I've forgotten her name, is a doctor that I follow, but I've completely forgotten her name at this point in time. She was saying that, you know, a lot of these companies, because they know the brown encourages people to buy, they put molasses in the bread so it looks brown. And molasses is a simple sugar. So if you're buying this fibrous bread because you've got type 2 diabetes or you're insulin resistant, then that's going to cause you more issues.
So
and it's like, I mean, and I don't know if those type of things aren't happening here. But I mean, for us, we do have a lot more rules and regulations, but with Brexit coming on, who knows what's going to happen? That's the one area for me. I'm like, the food. No one else that I know is interested in the food. They're like, what about this? What about that? I'm like, what about the food? So that for me, that brings it to home for me. But I don't know. I mean, being able to put these ingredients in or to not label it. We have these things now, you know, the 5 a day. So it would say on a can of baked beans, one of your 5 a day. And then, you know, and a mother who's not highly educated would be like, okay, this is one of my 5 a day. I'll bring this home. It's just not fair. We can't keep blaming the general public. You know, we can say things like, there's too much salt in your food. How are we going to get the word out there that people are eating too much salt? And I was like, just don't put the bloody salt in the food. Like, we need to blame the manufacturers for starters. We can't just keep blaming the consumers, because these foods are so addictive. They've got them at that right taste where we crave them. The bacteria are craving them. We can't get away from it. And it's
a vicious cycle.
It's a complete vicious cycle. And for me, you know, I grew up on sugar. Like, my mum was highly addicted to sugar. We had kind of this Willy Wonka chocolate factory under the stairs. And it took me a long time to kick my habit. And I will say that because I am now plant-based, and kicking sugar was so much harder than stopping meat. And I was eating meat 4 times a day. Yeah. Like, it was hard. It was like them versus me. I was like this like crazy, they're out to get me, the sugar. Like, it was intense.
I can go with or without meat, but I'll tell you what, I crave sugar all the time. I have a major sweet tooth.
And the thing is, for meat, you know if it's meat or not. You can't see when sugar's in things.
Right.
You can't. Like, you know, sometimes slices of bread have up to 4 grams of sugar in one slice. So that's 8 grams in a sandwich. And you don't know that because you're like, oh, I'm not having any jelly and I'm having ham or whatever you're having in your sandwich. So you think you've added no sugar into it. And all of a sudden, it's the same as you having, you know, something else that actually has sugar in.
Right.
So it's there needs to be a certain amount of responsibility. I don't think we can blame the consumers for everything. And education, like, we're not educated. I wasn't educated. I didn't have nutrition educated in my household. Me either. I didn't get it from school. I didn't get it from friends. Like, it was up to me to learn the hard way. And my kind of shift was when my father first got diagnosed and I was dealing with IBS. I was like, someone must have an answer to support this. And then I went on my journey of digging and getting obsessed with so many documentaries, and then went into further my education. But it's really, you know, if the government want to lower the rates of death, you know, heart disease is, I know it's one of the biggest killers in the US. It's one of the biggest killers here in the UK. And we know how much food kind of contributes towards those stats. But we keep continuing to blame someone else, like it's someone else's problem, or it's, you know, we can just keep selling this food and just wishful thinking, hope for the best. Like, I don't know. I really don't know.
A lot of work to be done out there. A lot. So let me ask you really quickly then, are there any big takeaways that you want the Dharma Drops listeners to just really ingrain in their minds and bodies?
Yeah, I think the feeling when I created Feel More, whether something is positive or negative, nothing lasts forever. And whatever feeling that you're currently feeling, that too will pass, right? And it's something I would try and remind myself each and every day. And unfortunately, when you're in an argument and you're in the heat of something, those things don't come in quick enough into my mind. But when I can leave a situation, I'm like, right, how am I feeling right now? Is this positive? This is negative? What can I learn? What can I take away from this? And then just try and grow into that. So, and I think that can help us in any aspect. Like if you're looking at food, if there's something that you want to support somewhere else, or your mental health, or relationships, or family, or self-love, like I think just being able to sit and feel is a really powerful practice in itself.
Absolutely. And it takes you through all the layers, right? To feel the body, to feel the thoughts, to feel the subtle parts of the body, right? The energy, the breath, that stuff. It can move through all the layers. Sometimes I like things like that, like as a mantra, like feeling, because then I get to think about it in all these different ways. How can I get closer to feeling in my experiences? So I think that's a good mantra to take away from this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's got me thinking about things already. Like,
awesome.
It's good.
So the way that I usually end Dharma Drops podcast is I truly believe that all this stuff is important and we should live our lives with integrity, with our beliefs, but there's a lot of shit happening that's really fun that has nothing to do with anything. So I always like to wrap up with what's going on in your life right now that you are enjoying. Are you listening to podcasts? Are you watching any good shows? Like what's happening across the pond that we need to tune into?
You know what? In terms of podcasts, I'm fairly new to podcasts.
Oh, welcome.
I know, right? And I'm on this new wave of nutrition podcasts, and like I said, I'm geeking out. So I'm probably smashing about 10 hours a week.
Oh yeah.
And when you're studying is hard work. Mm-hmm. When you choose to do something that you enjoy, nothing. And there's something so beautiful about that. Yeah. And I'm literally listening to 2 podcasts right now if you're interested in finding more about health. One is, I think it's called Plant Podcast. God, this is so great. I'm not even gonna know the names of this now. It is the plant. Oh my gosh! Right, let me bring it up, and then you can cut this.
Okay.
So my podcast is Plant Proof. Cool. And he just interviews loads of cool people, from doctors to influencers. They're all plant-based that's on there, and although that already sounds quite biased, it's not. It's kind of open-minded. Cool. Which I learn a lot from there. It just kind of gets me thinking, and yeah, that's what I really, really love. And I mean, in terms of what am I watching, I mean, Orange is the New Black. I'm on the last series.
You're the second person to bring this up as I've been recording this week. And, I haven't finished. I mean, I didn't watch after the second season. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I lost track of it. I just did.
I mean, the third one probably wasn't as great, although there was some real points that were highlighted. But it's like, I'm like ironing. I usually iron on a Sunday night, not a Saturday night. Oh my gosh, I'm setting myself up for failure here. Sunday night. I do my ironing, and I'm like, I put my movie on, and or my series is Netflix all the way. And yeah, Orange is the New Black. I didn't even know, when you like out of the know. And the next one after that would be Stranger Things, because I haven't watched it. But what I do is, because it takes a year for a series to come out, I'm like, oh my God, I've forgotten everything. I must watch them all again.
It's like watching Game of Thrones. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
You know what? I haven't. That's what I haven't. But it's so far in, I feel like
Well, you have to
It's
study it. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy. I'm like not the world's number one fan of Game of Thrones because it's too complex. I come from a literary background. I come from a storytelling background. I just feel like if you have to study to remember what happened last week, job not well done. It's too confusing.
Yeah.
But I had to have like a serious sit down to move into the next season to figure out what was going on because it was so complicated. I can't remember it. I can't remember what I'm talking about when I record this podcast. Nevertheless, what happened 3 years ago in the last freaking episode of Game of Thrones came out.
Yeah, and that's it. But I do love the Netflix catch up. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch some series, and does the catch up. I'm like, oh, perfect. I know what's going on. So yeah, Orange is the New Black is that, and then another exciting time. I'm teaching at a yoga and wellness festival next weekend. I did it last year. It's in the Cotswolds, which is a beautiful countryside in Gloucester. And I remember last year not really going to many classes. Mm-hmm. And sitting in the hot tub with a glass of wine with the hills and the beautiful views. And I was like, this is me. I finished my teaching.
This is what my life was supposed to be all along.
And I chat to everyone like it's my hot tub. I'm like, join in, guys, join in. Let's have a chat.
It's really funny.
That's next weekend. So, I'm really excited about that. And it will close my summer nicely.
That's nice. I've never been to a yoga festival. All the years I've been doing this, I've never been to a yoga festival. Sometimes I'm worried that they get a little too like cuddle puddle, where everyone's like, I love you. Not that I'm not into like being.
I know.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't know you and I don't love you yet,
I know it is definitely with a pinch of salt, but I mean the great thing about this particular festival is called Soul Circus. They're very, very small, right? But she's really tried. It was a young couple that run it, and they've really tried to not just focus on the yogis. So she's got like my friend is running this self-love tent, and she has burlesque dancers there. My friend who's running it used to dance for Rihanna. We do fusion class, which is yoga meets Beyonce, where we do a whole yoga class and dance class to Beyonce. And so it's kind of a bit for everyone. And it's really funny because the dance class is packed, absolutely packed. And not just women, we have loads of dads, we have loads of guys, all strutting. She gets them to walk down, strut and hold poses. And I thought, maybe the dads are just here like supporting their kids. And we've got photos of them doing their Beyonce, strutting like whoever. And it's really, really nice. So
that's so funny. Everyone always thinks that I would love yoga and dance classes. I went to a yoga workshop and they did that like ecstatic dance stuff. That is not my thing. And what's weird about that is I'm actually a modern dancer and I do some really weird shit on stage in front of audiences as a modern dancer. I mean, like I've worn these like weird animal heads. I've fed newspaper to people while yelling in a megaphone. I mean, I've done some weird ass shit, but there's something about ecstatic dance. I'm like, this is just too weird for me.
And this is it. And this is the intense kind of, even for me, ecstatic dance kind of throws me off a little bit. And that's why we named it Yoga Meets Beyonce, because it's basically commercial dance. Because people are like, is that like a static dance? We're like, no, it's a commercial dance class after a yoga warm-up.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary series on Netflix, Wild Wild Country?
I have seen the first episode, but I haven't got into it yet.
So I don't know what episode it is. If they start to show like when people are doing this whole meditation thing, which for some people I think is really great and works well, but they're basically like doing ecstatic dance for the most part. They're like gyrating all over the place and stuff. That is just not my thing, man. And anytime I see like these yoga dance things, all I can think about is that documentary. And all I can think about is like these people that were like trying to kill politicians and like poisoning people in Oregon. I'm like, everyone's going to lose their mind.
Yeah. Well, we have a reference. There's a comedy show called The Peep Show. And I think it is on Netflix in America.
Ooh, I'm going to check it out. The Peep Show
is very, very British, very, very blunt. And it's basically two flatmates. They're both a little bit loser-like. but one of them manages to sleep with so many people, and you kind of wonder how this happens. But he meets, I forgot her name as an actress, but do you remember, obviously, like Alicia Silverstone when Clueless came out?
Yes.
They made a series of it, but I can't remember the actress.
Couldn't even tell you, but I remember the series.
Okay, she is in this Peep Show, just this episode. She comes in, is his new girlfriend or new piece or whatever it is. And she's like, oh, I really want to take you to this dance class. You must come. And it's basically called Rainbow Rhythms, right? So it speaks in the name. And you see these two guys, and that is basically every reference. All of my friends, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this like yoga dance class. I'm like, is it like Rainbow Rhythms? I'm like, no, it's not like Rainbow Rhythms. Okay. Not what it's about. But that's what everyone will reference. I'm like, is it like Rainbow Rhythms? I'm like, no, it's not. There's I can't remember what episode or series, but if you watch it, that's
I'm going to check it out. The Peep Show, right?
Very, very British humor. So, yeah, Peep Show.
Yeah, I feel like the last time, so I think I told you I recorded with the woman who's from London, but she lives here. But then I also recorded with another woman who lives in London. She runs a program called Mini Me Yoga. We were talking about British humor too. And of course, American and British humor are really different. But in my time in the UK, I don't exactly know what about my humor may not be quite as American, but people kept saying, are you sure you're American? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you listen to the way I'm speaking right now, but I think it's that blunt sort of humor, maybe because American humor can get a little like slapstick sometimes, which I don't find funny at all.
And it's funny because sometimes I like old school British humor. Like I would watch classic British comedies when I was studying in Canada. It was like my homesick comfort. And I probably wouldn't find it as funny in the UK, but because I was so far away from home, it was like I knew what they meant. Like I could connect. I knew what they meant. Like even the type of stupid joke about tea, like I knew it because it's in my culture, like it's so it's very slapstick. Is it slapstick? Some of the stuff is, I don't know, it's just different. It is different. But then again, a lot of the American sitcoms are very big in the UK, but maybe not all of them depending on the humor, right? Like Friends, for instance, massive here, really, really massive here.
I was just talking about Friends on a podcast recording yesterday because it has reemerged in the United States with young people. It's like the coolest show ever. And I watched it when it aired the first time that night on television, Is that show is it British Absolutely Fabulous?
Yes.
Oh my God, I loved that show when I was a kid. When I was a child, I watched it all the time.
And it's really quite intense as an adult to watch it. And
I should watch it.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't believe even my mom and dad let me watch this. It's like two women that are in the fashion industry that are really fabulous, that really love cocaine. Like that's the whole concept.
I knew that.
That's the whole concept.
That's hilarious.
They're always drunk and they are always off their face. But both of the actresses are very well known. They were kind of core comedians, I suppose. Writers, and they're really still really respected for that show, and it's still played, and as a keeper. Awesome. However, they made a movie that was disappointing, so don't watch the movie, just go and watch their own episode.
The show. I love that show. Simone, if folks want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
Under Ms. Holistic on all platforms. That's MS Holistic. That's on Instagram, Twitter, website, everything, all that name. So if you want to reach out, and sometimes, when I kind of talk a little bit about mental health or things that come up, sometimes people just want to, DM me or something. I'm always open for people to reach out. So either one of those platforms, but probably Instagram is the way forward. Okay.
Awesome. And you said you do accept clients globally, yes?
Yeah, cool. Exactly. So, I mean, if people are kind of interested in taking that next step, and I always kind of say like, this will change your life, and that is kind of it. It's being ready to make those changes and making that clear too, because I speak to people like, yeah, I want to make these changes. I'm like, but do you really want to make these changes? Like, or do you kind of want to make these changes? Because it's hard, you know, like we make these changes for the better, but it's hard. But I support my clients. I'm like, look, I'm here. I'm your cheerleader. I will cheer you on until the end. And nothing makes me happier. I mean, I work with a client last year. She had Crohn's. And for those of you who kind of might not know much about Crohn's, it's an autoimmune disease where the small intestine starts to attack itself. And it can be in the colon, but usually it's in the small intestine. And the small intestine is our absorption hub. It's where it absorbs everything. Like we eat the food, it gets the vitamins, the minerals, it absorbs it, sends it to the liver, and kind of, you know, sends it off to all the cells and everything that it needs to do. And it basically becomes so inflamed that it can't function. And what doctors will do if it gets really chronic, and in her case, they just start cutting away at the small intestine. And she lost 30 centimeters of her small intestine, and that shit doesn't grow back, right? Like you ain't get another one. And that's your absorption hub. So the fact that she already has an autoimmune disease means that her immune system's already weakened already. So, I mean, she came to me with this kind of, you know, maybe it will help, you know, maybe I've got nothing to lose, you know, and all to gain. And I call her my superstar because she did everything. I couldn't believe it. You know, usually I speak to clients and they come back and they're like, oh, I've only done 2 things. I'm like, that's fine. Let's make a third thing, right? It's fine. I'll coach them through. But she did everything. I was like, you've done everything. She went, yeah, I've done everything. And we finished working last year, December. And she was getting married this year in June. And her dream was to basically get married and not worry about her Crohn's. And her flare-ups would be so bad, she'll either be in bed for 3 weeks or in hospital, right? It was really bad. And she sent me this picture of her and her husband. I think she's only about 28 or so. Her and her husband kind of, you know, walking through they're all throwing rice or whatever they're throwing. It's a beautiful picture. And she sent me a message saying, I've just had the happiest day of my life. Oh. And he was like, this was the dream when I first met you, and now it's a reality. She's like, I haven't thought about my Crohn's once.
That's amazing.
And I'm even like tearful at it, because that to me is everything. You know, she kind of lost hope. She didn't really know where to turn, and she went back to the doctors within 8 weeks. I think we were working together, and they were like, you no longer have chronic inflammation. And she was due to have her next removal. Like that was the plan. Mm-hmm. It was the MRI to see when she needed to be in for the next op. And the doctor's like, we don't know how this has happened. And I was like, I don't care. The fact that you're telling me this, I am extremely proud of you. And so it's when you get to share journeys like that, I'm like, I'm exactly where I need to be.
That's right? Amazing. So for those of you who are ready to take the next step, and I think the important key is to do the work. You can find her on all platforms at Ms. Holistic, MS Holistic, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. All joined. Yeah.
Awesome. And as you all know, you can always find me at Rebecca Warfield Yoga on Instagram and at Dharma Drops Podcast. And you can always catch up with me online at RebeccaWarfield.com and or DharmaDropsPodcast.com. They both go to the same place. So it doesn't matter. Just type one, you'll get there. So Simone, thank you so much for being a part of the episode today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. It's great. It's so nice that, you know, we can connect from the other side of the pond, as you said. Like, so great. It's really, really good.
It's an amazing world that we live in, isn't it? For sure. It is. All right. Well, Dharma Drops listeners, until we meet again next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Dharma Drops. If you haven't done so already, head over to Facebook and join the Dharma Drops community page. Just search for Dharma Drops community page. Imagine it. That's DHARMA, Dharma Drops community page. Once you join, there's all sorts of cool stuff happening in there. We have giveaways, we have exclusive podcast updates, live videos, new content from the guests, and more. So please join the Dharma Drops community page on Facebook. And also don't forget to rate and review and subscribe to Dharma Drops on whatever app you're listening to Dharma Drops on. Really, truly, I've said it 1,000 times and I mean it every single time. This podcast cannot be a success without your support. All right, guys, see you next time.